G is a 360 flip. Oh, look at that. That's like going back to playing these games when I was younger. That was awesome. Anthropic has just released the newly updated Claude Opus 4.6, an update to their most powerful model. So let's take a look at some of the interesting things that have come in conjunction with this release, and then we'll jump into some fun and light testing. So without wasting any further time, feel free to subscribe, and now we'll go ahead and just look at some interesting things mentioned in this announcement release post. So as one would likely expect, a lot of what this post says is just that it's significantly better in specific areas than its predecessor, but I find there are some interesting benchmarks here because not all of them are showing significant leaps based over the previous version, which of course is Opus 4.5. In addition to that, if we do scroll down to these benchmark JPEGs, which truthfully I don't necessarily always take at such face value, but I think in this case it's fair to assume these are more or less pretty accurate, we can see that Opus 4.6 is still very close to GPT 5.2 codecs in the codec CLI as denoted by the brackets right here. So there's not a huge leap in capability between these two models. Obviously there has been a lot of drama lately between OpenAI and Anthropic just in terms of their like public beef, if you will, for anyone interested in that sort of stuff. So it's interesting to see how close they still are currently. In addition to that, if we scroll down some more, there are some additional benchmarks, and it's interesting to note that not every single thing that was benchmarked here shows an improvement over the previous Opus 4.5 version, which is the preceding model from the 4.6 to 4.5. That's probably self-explanatory, I guess. I didn't need to try to explain that. And finally, for some more specific technical information pertaining to this model, we can see that it now has adaptive thinking, where previously developers only had a binary choice between enabling or disabling extended thinking. We also see now there are 4 specific reasoning levels for folks to choose from: low, medium, high, and max. There is no X high though, and this is kind of almost scaring me because it's running into like the GPT 5.2 meme where there's just so many different model names with these different reasoning levels, but I would presume this is probably going to be more of a consideration for using this in an agentic coding fashion with something like Claude Code. Other important things down here pertaining to context length are the 1 million token context, which we can see is denoted by this beta tag, making Opus 4.6 the first Opus class model with a 1 million token context. Premium pricing applies for prompts exceeding 200,000 tokens, so it goes to $10 per million input and $37.50 per million output, up from $5 per million input and $25 per million output for the just general 4.6 usage. In addition to that, it has 128k output tokens, which, as we see listed, lets Claude complete larger output tasks without breaking them into multiple requests. These are things that are inevitably going to show more of a quality of life improvement in agentic coding tasks, perhaps not so much in the things we'll be doing specifically today in our first test, but also good to note for folks who use these tools to code, who there are many of. The only other thing is there's a linked system card here talking about a bunch of different specifics of this model in quite a lot of intricacy based on the 212-page length of this, so I wanted to mention that just for anyone interested. Now, basically, we see right here we have Opus 4.6 extended enabled, and we're going to start with our tried and true browser OS test, where the model needs to make a web browser-based OS, the ability to change wallpaper. It must include 5 specific applications, 2 of which must be games, and a special feature that it decides upon and implements on its own. All right, here is our Opus 4.6 browser operating system, Novos, interesting, 1337, nice. Now, it has a clock here in the bottom right. I'll try to be a little quicker with these results than sometimes I normally am. Good, we do have a right click, which I would expect nothing less at this point, although right click has a few specific options such as change wallpaper, open terminal, toggle glitch mode, which inevitably is the special feature it has implemented, and about. I think first and foremost, let's just try the change wallpaper. Very good. A bunch of color gradients, no actual specific images, but that's more than okay with me. I think I'll leave this on the Nebula. Glitch mode is the special feature. We'll look at that later. We don't want to spoil the special feature off the bat. Being that that is the case, let's take a look at our start menu. So I see at least 8 specific applications here, which is good. Let's see if the weather is properly No. Nova City, 22 Celsius. Well, it's definitely not the current location of myself, but it has a nice aesthetic to it. We can full screen, we can non-full screen, and minimize to the taskbar does denote the app is still open with a little purple dot underneath it. So that's nice to see as well. Moving on, let's check our terminal. Very cool. I think this is one of the first times I've seen a functional terminal application in this test that is not just using the homebrew aesthetic with the green text on black background. Let's check out some of our available commands. Matrix rain effect. I gotta try that. Ugh. Okay, that should come with like a warning for stop this. Okay, well, I'm going to just restart it because that was cool, but not necessarily very aesthetic. And that does properly show us our apps. Not bad at all. I will minimize this one. Let's check out our notepad. This looks good. Interesting. A word count feature. I've never seen a word count feature in this test ever. Hey, how are you? One would assume 4 words. Word count 4, and it shows us in a little notification in the top right. Not bad at all. We also get a character count here, as well as information on how many lines this is in the bottom right. So this is nice. If we are to save this, it actually saves it to our local system as a text file. Quite impressive. That does show the extra mile being taken. I'm very pleased so far. Let's try Snake. Now, when we open this, it should not automatically start the game until we have manually done so. Good. I mean, I guess if like this was the hottest game when you were around, it would be more fun than it is now, but okay, not bad. The snake did grow. Everything looks relatively acceptable. We have our score as well as our highest score that we play, and we can pause it as well. A functional snake. All right, here's our file browser. Can we expand the windows from the bottom? Okay, so I'm not seeing the ability to resize, which is a little disappointing, but we do have a bunch of fake file types with nice icons, although it may have implemented, okay, file preview not available. Okay, so these are all just kind of placeholders for aesthetic purposes, but it did do a good job using the preview image for the specific file type, as the zip file is just a little zipped box, which is cool. All right, let's try my nemesis, the calculator. 4 times 8, 432. Divided by 6, 72. Well done. All right, Minesweeper. So this is our second game. We also have a timer here, and this has a very similar UI to our Snake game. Can we open both at the same time? Indeed, we can. So we see the UI is quite similar, which is good because that just shows consistency in what we want to see. All right, left click, reveal, right click, flag. Proper. Game over. Time 35 seconds. Mine's 8. And then we have our settings again, but now we get to try the special feature, which is, of course, this glitch mode. Wow, glitch mode activated. Okay. It should come with like a health warning when you enable this. A special feature, nonetheless. I won't perhaps necessarily comment on my opinion on this. It did do as I asked, which was implement a special feature it came up with by itself. Yeah, I guess, and we see it's enabled. Oh, that's actually kind of cool. So you can enable and disable it by clicking the toggle where my head will be in this video. So, all right, overall, this was an extremely competent result. Now we're going to try the 3D printer simulation test. This is one that definitely can highlight improvements in model capabilities. So I'll be very interested to see how this performs and stacks up comparatively to everything else we've seen so far with this specific test. All right, let's take a look at our 3D printer simulation. Okay, that is really impressive looking upon first glance. And something I do want to note is this donut shape here is one of the first times I've seen a spool just kind of properly reflected. Now I'm going to say, and this is partially attributed to the screen on this laptop being relatively low quality and the bright studio lights in front of me, this is a bit hard to see, but I can make out a little LCD screen, and we do in fact have 4 little red bed leveling knobs on either of the 4 corners, which again is an ode to like the Ender 3 and earlier printer days when you had to manually level the bed, which was not very enjoyable. All right, we have a pretty complex UI here as well. We have status information here, layer sizes and heights. I think I'm just going to start by clicking the print button, and we'll see. It made a bed slinger? Damn. That's very good. I've never seen a bed slinger made before. A bed slinger would be when the bed actually moves back and forth as well. Again, a lot of printers now, like think of like a Bamboo Lab, at least one of the enclosed ones. Those are called Core XY, where instead of the bed actually moving, the bed stays static. It only moves up and down. And then the actual gantry with the nozzle moves across all the axes. It's just faster because the bed slinger is moving a lot of mass. So it's harder to make the printer go faster in the bed slinger style. But this is really, and we have our layer lines visible as well. The nozzle is actually properly staying near the print as well. This is a really, really well done result, even if it's kind of hard to see due to the darkness that it has ascribed to this. I'm shocked to see a bed slinger. Let's try a circle or cylinder. All right, I will reset. I'm going to slow it down. Oh yeah. That's incredible. That's very, very, very well done. We have our first layer. Although I'm not really seeing much infill detail, which I can, I suppose, knock this a little for, as I have seen some decent infill capabilities with other models. But when it comes to the actual quality of the animation and everything like that, this is significantly improved over anything I've ever seen, just due to the fact that it actually has the bed slinger and the movement is really quite true to life. We can see that it is moving up layer by layer, although a bit difficult to get the camera down to see that currently. If we speed it up right now, we'll be able to see. Wow, yes, and this is kind of the issue with bed slingers. It's not possible to get them to move in that fast manner. We do have layer by layer. All right, let's reset, and we'll try a prism. All right, and perhaps not as realistic of the movement that the nozzle would take in this one, but this is, and we even have like the rail that it goes on the gantry is a different color. This was really cool. This was really quite well done. And this makes me very, very excited for some of the game prompts that we're going to be doing as well. We can also increase the number of layers. Can we? Yeah. So let's just do that at hyperspeed again, but with 120 layers, and we'll see if it goes significantly higher than it did before. It does. And it's double the height, more or less. That's awesome. That is really, that's nice. All right, I want to test a multimodal coding capability where we're going to give it this image of the Stevie Slappis hand-drawn portfolio wireframe and say, using this as a design reference, bring this portfolio to life in an aesthetically pleasing manner. And we'll see how it does in transferring our hand-drawn portfolio wireframe to an actual website. All right, let's take a look at our portfolio based off of our wireframe. All right, Stevie Lapis. Not quite, it is Stevie Slappis, but that's okay. We have welcome to my portfolio, and it's rather simple. So I don't know specifically how to assess this because in one way, it did definitely stay true to the style of this specific hand-drawn wireframe, where truthfully it's pretty minimalist and everything looks more or less arranged in the same way. However, something I'm going to say as a downside is I'm a little disappointed with this result, truthfully. I figured it would have gone a lot more flamboyant with its design and making this look really good. It kind of just almost kept the wireframe aesthetic and just turned it into a website, which I wasn't expecting. I really was expecting this to create like a really impressive looking visual experience from our wireframe. It's clean here and everything, but this is not a result that wouldn't be able to have been received with a significantly cheaper and smaller and even perhaps open source model when given the same task. Now we're going to try a Python 3D first-person shooter game where it needs to have a functional minimap showing the player as well as all opponents, visible effects to trace the ammunition when shooting, a functional player health bar. I've told it not to use Ursina because I want to see a little more of a creative result than what it may opt to do if it uses that, and a stylized game menu screen with the following options, start and exit. So here is our Python first-person shooter result. Very good. FPS Arena Python Edition. And the menu is properly stylized. The buttons look good. Let's go ahead and start our game. Oh, geez. I'm stuck in a room. And, okay, great. I was not given the opportunity to really defend myself, being that, all right, we do have ammunition effects. The difficulty level in this game is ridiculous. Look at the map. Look at the mini map. I'm stuck in a room, but somehow the ammunition's getting through. I'm gonna just try pointing at the. That is just not right. This is just. It looks like it may have been cool, but the big issue here is obviously that we're stuck in a room in the center of this map. I'm actually kind of frustrated by this. I'm very disappointed, so I'm giving it a second prompt here saying I'm stuck in a room and can't actually do anything. I'm immediately getting quote-unquote slapped as soon as the game opens, so I wanted to fix this so I can actually play. Let me fix the spawn point and open up that center structure. Please do. All right, let's see if we have some freedom when we... Good. This is exactly what I was looking to have. The opponent even has a face. Now, it's either impossible to... I noticed in the minimap it looks like I was facing the wrong direction. We'll try this one more time. Huh. They're like 2D. They make me uncomfortable. All right, well, this is just ridiculously difficult. This is just... Why is it... Come on. What an incredibly frustrating game. All right, I want to try a web game. I know, surprise, surprise. I like these. But this, instead of the flight combat simulator game, we're going to try a ship combat simulator game. All right, let's check out our ship combat simulator game. Very interesting. Broadside, ship combat simulator. I can already tell this is going to look pretty cool, but I noticed the aesthetic qualities here are kind of similar to the Stevie Lapis portfolio, just in terms of the font and the colors, which is interesting. Okay, WSAD, I'm just reading the control map down here. Mouse aim, left click, fire port, right click, fire starboard, space, fire both broadsides, and shift to boost. All right. That's cool. There's our enemy. So, reverse. Oh my god, it's so slow, which is, I suppose, realistic. Oh, look at the cannon effects. Okay, that's this is awesome. I like this test. Of course I like it. I came up with it. But I think it may also be the effect of the water that's making it seem like we're not actually going anywhere. We can see the distance between the enemy ship is changing as well. But before we even go into that, something I want to notice is look at the way the water is actually interacting with the hull of the boat. We have some translucent sails, which is interesting. And we can move quite nicely. It looks like it's floating well. Let me try. Yeah, it's just odd. We do have a mini map in the bottom right corner. The big problem is this almost seems like it's drifting. Let's see if we can do some damage to the enemy. Well, the good thing is the enemy comes to get us. We do see smoke effects. I hit them. Okay, good. Their health went down. I'm hell-bent on sinking this enemy, but this game is really quite difficult to play. Hey, get back here. That's not fair. I might restart this. So I have to press escape to get control back of the mouse. Shift is boost. Okay, so that may come in handy. And we do have an actual like reload countdown timer for the cannons to be reloaded, which is realistic. This was a good result, although I do have to say, I swear I recall getting a result like this where the individual cannons were actually moving in one of the tests. This is obviously a less frequently done test on this channel, but I am fairly certain I've seen almost a more impressive result than this, but I don't specifically remember which model did it. For all I know, it may have been a Claude model, but this was a really well done result. I mean, you can't ask for much more than this. All right, so we're going to now, in the same vein as the ship combat simulator, try a flight combat simulator game, being that this is something I have tested pretty consistently in models that are smart enough to handle it. So it'll be interesting to see how this stacks up. I did start this a few minutes ago, being that this has been taking a little while to actually generate these results, which is not a knock. It just shows that it's really like competently going through and creating these things. So it'll be interesting to see how this compares. If we go to ultimateplay.com, which is my own website to benchmark these things, don't worry, I'm not trying to sell you anything here. It's just almost at this point just like a personal scrapbook. We can see the flight combat simulator. This is the previous version of Opus 4.5, and it was fantastic. It was well done, and it generated significantly faster than what we're seeing right now. So it's just interesting to see. And keep in mind, this raster effect that we see over it is something that the website's doing. It is not a result of the actual model's generation. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how it stacks up to this, considering that it has taken such a significantly increased time to generate the result, and with a significantly more verbose chain of thought proceeding. Right after quite a long time, we have our flight combat simulator result right here, and let's take a look and see how this is. Okay, Sky Combat. This definitely seems to have a different UI style to it than previously I've seen, just kind of seen by, if we are to restart this as well, it has interesting menu scenes as opposed, it's like less colorful. All right, launch mission. And there's sound. There's sound. This is, okay, that's just because we went off the map. Do I see enemies? I think that's a cloud, right? Yeah, that's a cloud. Where are my enemies at? This is, this is cool. Oh, okay, there's a mini map. Oh, those were the enemies? Oh my. This is the improvement I was looking for. I mean, the plane models are way better. The enemies are wow. This is fully deserving of a speaker, so we can all enjoy the sounds that it's implemented as well. I've never had a model implement sounds in this test. So, all right, let's try the propeller plane. It's just like a sign. Why can't I shoot? All right, well this, oh, there. That was awesome. The sound is just, the sound for this plane is weird, and our health has gone down a bit as well. I think this is one of the more playable results I've seen, even if it's kind of difficult. That sound is not, all right, we'll try the, okay, so it all just has that weird sound. I'm almost kind of regretting plugging in the speaker now. We're upside down now. Look at that. The plane's upside down. Oh, man. All right. I don't think I'm going to... That was awesome. That was really very enjoyable to play. It had me on the edge of my seat. I know some people may be like, dude, like you're a weirdo. This was awesome. This was really, really awesome. I love this result. We're now giving it the virtual drum kit simulation test, where it has to use either 3D assets or 2D photorealistic assets mimicking a drum set. More often than not now, with models that are smart enough, this produces a semi-functional result. The biggest thing that I've not really seen very commonly with this result is properly placed drums corresponding to where they would actually be laid out in real life. So it'll be interesting to see how it handles the animation. I'm almost more interested in seeing the visual design of this than the actual sound design, which I'm fairly confident in saying will likely work. And we can see this did not think anywhere near as long as it did with the Flight Combat Simulator game, which really was quite something. So that was awesome. I'm still like, all right, let's take a look at our drum kit simulator. Very good. This is almost 2D photorealistic instead of 3D, but the layout of the drums in terms of where they would actually be laid out in real life is fairly proper. So, all right. Interesting. We have a velocity figure. We do have a key map that we can open if we need to remind ourselves which of these specific keys corresponds to which drum. Interesting that it didn't do it in 3D, but the prompt does allow it to do 2D photorealistic. I'll be interested to see if this hi-hat actually has an open and closing animation. All right. The sounds are well done. This might be one of the most realistic Phil Collins tests that we've ever done. So, without wasting any further time, that was almost like true to life. All right, that was quite well done. It wasn't 3D, but everything was laid out properly. The sounds were fantastic. That was genuinely one of the most realistic Phil Collins tests that we've ever performed on this channel, and I did get some good grooves going there, to be completely honest with you. So this was quite a playable result. So now I've asked it for, and this is going to be the most difficult test that we give it in this current testing session, a self-contained C++ skateboarding game with the following, oh, my Bluetooth speaker, I apologize, with the following: A simple skate park environment where the player controls a skateboarder, performs tricks, and earns points. The game should be immediately playable with no setup or external assets required. Everything should just be contained within a single code snippet or just a single C++ file and be executable and able to be run on our system. This is something I believe I've only tried with GPT 5.2 Pro mode and Gemini 3 Pro DeepThink. So I've never tested this with a very expensive subscription tier model. So it'll be interesting to see how this performs. Wow. That is hands down the best result I've received for this test, which I have only run with the pro tier subscription models, Gemini 3 Pro DeepThink and GPT 5.2. I should probably see if it works first. This is awesome. Look at the human model that it made. This is the most realistic. Are the legs actually moving? Look at the lean of the skateboard, airborne. This is fantastic. This is truly, if I clickbait this video, which I may very well do, you can directly attribute my doing so to this. I mean, this is jump onto rail to grind, turn plus space and air to spin. I can't quite get it, but I mean, this is phenomenal for what it just did here. This is a self-contained C++ file in 0 shot, and it actually did this. I mean, oh, look at the, this is, wow. This is, I mean, and it's only getting better. So, I mean, everyone has their own personal opinion on what that means for them, but I mean, I think honestly, this is going to sound crazy. I'm most blown away in terms of this result with the actual human model it drew. None of them have ever drawn a proper human model like this. They always do capsules or something representative of a person. I mean, K is kickflip. H is a heel flip. Okay, that one doesn't work. G is a 360 flip. Oh, look at that. That's like going back to playing these games when I was younger. I loved skateboarding too. I really sucked at it. I was terrible, but I very much enjoyed it. All right. Oh, that's awesome. That sold. All right, the final test was what we see just generated. I had it generate an SVG of this, a faithful representation of what we see there. Truthfully, that's not bad. That's really not bad. All right, so that's going to conclude our first look and test of the newly released Opus 4.6 from Anthropic, Claude Opus 4.6. We'll quickly just look back through the results. They were very, very impressive. I will say the odd one out, the ugly duckling here, if you will, was the Steve Lapis Portfolio Multimodal Test, where we had it from a wireframe create this. I just wasn't impressed with this. Perhaps it strictly adhered to the wireframe and I didn't give it creative control enough. Regardless of that, the ship game was kind of cool. I don't know that this was the best result I've seen in doing this prompt, which I have admittedly only done a few times. However, on the flip side of that, Sky Combat game was by a long shot the best one of these that I've received, and it implemented sound as well. This was just phenomenal. The studio drum kit was quite well done, not as visually impressive as a 3D generated result, but it was still pretty good and very playable. Now, the true star of the show here is the skateboarder game in C++, done without any errors, 1950 lines of code, as it prominently said. I mean, this was just like excellent, truly excellent. All right, well, to be honest with you, GPT 5.3 Codex just came out supposedly, so I'm probably going to jump into work and playing with that, as I'm rather excited to do so, but this was a phenomenal test. I really thoroughly enjoyed this, and I was extremely impressed with some of these results, most notably the C++ skateboard game, hands down, stole the show. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching. Subscribe.